Yo, what's up everybody? This is Junior Chicken here, and the procrastination is officially over. I have completed both of the main series Gen 7 games. Although I'm pretty disappointed with Ultra Sun since it was very similar to Sun. But now I can finally talk about how I feel about Generation 7. And it's overall a very great generation. It made some gameplay structure changes that were pretty necessary. No longer do we have gym leaders, instead we have kahunas and trial captains. We no longer have HMs anymore, we got ride Pokemon instead, which is really good. We got Poképelago, allowing you to put your Pokemon in the PC to good use. And one of the most lovable characters ever introduced in the Pokemon series. But what's really important is that we got a whole bunch of creative Pokemon. I'd argue and say that Generation 7 is probably the most creative bunch of Pokemon in terms of design. Proving once again to the masses and Gen 1ers that no, Game Freak is not running out of ideas. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I'm extending this countdown to feature a dozen Pokemon. So here are my favorite Pokemon from the Alola region. And yes, I will be including Alolan variants. Unlike Mega Evolutions, which are temporary transformations, Alola variants, or Alolan forms, are redesigns of an original Pokemon to be made new and fresh. So I do count them as new Pokemon. But once again, these Pokemon will be ranked based on material only from the main game series. No anime or manga. And also, fully evolved forms still. So, let's get to it! My top 12 favorite Alolan Pokemon. I'm just starting off the countdown, and I've already got a tricky choice between two fighting types. The first being Kuomo, a dragon fighting type that has a design pretty interesting based off of Komodo dragons, and a 600 base stat total. Come on, Game Freak, stop giving us these dragons with 600 base stat totals. Do you even care about your own metagame? I guess Crabominal wins by default.
I gotta give the Ultra Games some credit on this one. Gaining access to the base of Mount Lanakila early so you can evolve Crabrawler definitely gave me some more appreciation for Crabominable. Design-wise, it's a cross between a Yeti and a coconut crab. Fairly ugly, but it's still a pretty creative combination. Battle-wise though, it is a double-edged Quarry Blade. It is very slow, meaning that Trick Rooms are almost mandatory to use it competitively, and despite having some okay HP, its defenses aren't that great. Not to mention it has about 6 weaknesses that are fairly common. On the flip side though, it has a 132 attack stat, abilities that only help its attack even further, and stabs that cover half of the type chart, or around half of the Pokedex. Its natural move pool also has plenty of attacks that work with Iron Fist, including its signature Ice Hammer, which is basically an Ice-type hammer arm. It also gets some respectable type coverage through TMs, as well as some more Iron Fist boosted moves through the Move Tutor, which includes Drain Punch, Focus Punch, and Thunder Punch. You can also inherit Crab Hammer if you'd like that. I guess Crabominal is one of those high-risk, high-reward type of Pokemon. You could be bro fist smashing through the entire opposition, or get knocked out before you even have a chance to move. But regardless, it's a great fighting type and the only new Ice-type Pokemon we got, so it's definitely worth kicking off the countdown. Or punching off the countdown, that makes more sense.
Get out of here, Salamence. Get out.
A few of the Sun and Moon trailers actually got me pretty interested in some of the flying types introduced in Gen 7. Unfortunately, they didn't quite measure up. Oricorio was really disappointing, and although I do like Minior, it is kinda hard to develop a strategy around its Aegislask-esque ability. But thankfully we did have an early bird Pokemon that actually evolved into something that was pretty sweet.
I'd say that Toucan is probably the most interesting fully evolved early route bird, mainly because it took so long for us to get a Toucan Pokemon, which evolves from a woodpecker. I can go along with that. Also in the past, many of the normal flying type early route birds have had a focus on attack and speed mostly. With Toucan, you've got the 120 attack stat, which definitely reflects the kind of hostile behavior it has in its Pokedex entries, but speed, not so much. It's actually probably the slowest of the early route birds, but it has 2 tricks up its wings that make it a really cool Pokemon to use in battle. The first being the ability Skill Link, and considering that it has Fury Attack, Bullet Seed, and Rock Blast in its natural move pool, you can use it pretty effectively to take down Pokemon, whether breaking through sashes, substitutes, or Mimikyu's disguise.
Bye, Felicia!
The second trick being its signature move, Beak Blast. It has the same power and accuracy as Earthquake, is a flying type move, but forces you to go last. The kicker? Anyone who touches you before you attack gets burned. So it's an effective attack that can also be used for setup. The main problem with Beak Blast is that it is a projectile move, so bulletproof Pokemon such as Chestnut and Cuomo aren't affected by it. But you can teach a Brave Bird through breeding if you want to take advantage more of raw power. Of course, it has Roost for sustain and Swords Dance for setup, but you've also got U-Turn for some switch initiative, as well as Flame Charge and Overheat, oddly enough. Fitting, I guess, since it says its beak can heat up to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. I guess that could make it more fitting to be a fire flying type, but then again, we don't need another Talonflame.
Who's there with the Surge Surfer, but your Tapu Koko's kinda dead.
One cool thing that the Generation 7 games did was dive into a classic sci-fi trope: alien invasions. Sure, putting Ultra in front of every word to make it a moniker was pretty dumb, but at least we got 11 different Pokemon classified as Ultra Beasts. These Ultra Beasts can be defined by 2 distinct traits: their unearthly and grotesque designs, and completely unbalanced stat distributions, with Solstila being a possible exception. Nihilego was so close to making it on the countdown, being such an influential Pokemon in the story, as well as having a unique typing, but in the end I decided to go with the Ultra Beast that had by far the coolest design of them all. Do you even lift is not even a question with this beast.
That's right, it's Buzzwole, the red, pulsating, steroid-abusing mosquito that is by far the cockiest of the Ultra Beasts. All it does is flex. It flexes whenever it hits the battle. It flexes whenever it takes a hit, and it even flexes when it gets knocked out. But it has the guns to back it up. Yeah, it has some shitty special defense, and speed isn't anything special, but it has pretty high HP as well as equally high attack and defense. So you can choose the beast boost that you want. Make it just like Moxie, or boost its defense whenever it knocks out a Pokemon. And you can build up its power with Bulk Up. It's got powerful fighting stabs like Hammer Arm, Super Power, and Focus Punch, and attacks that give it sustain such as Drain Punch, and a Bug-type physical move which I'll talk about later. It also has access to both Thunder Punch and Ice Punch right out of its natural move pool, giving you coverage against flying types right off the bat. And it has plenty of other type coverage if you need it, so you can take on weaknesses and plenty of other Pokemon. I would still say at the end of the day that Heracross is my favorite bug fighting type for being the OG. Pheromosa just feels a bit too much like Deoxys for me. But I'm definitely not sleeping on Buzzwole. It'll be flexing on you every day of the week.
It ain't gonna be enough though. Let's get a crit, that'd be nice. It is enough, was it a crit?
Fire Dancer.
Okay, so this isn't a Mega Evolution, but I'll take what I can get here. We all got some pretty strong hints that Alolan Marowak would be a fire type, since the website states that Kiawe, the fire type trial captain, has a few Marowaks of his own. However, the ghost typing was a bit unexpected, but it actually makes quite a lot of sense. Strangely enough, there's no Alolan Cubone, so Cubone completely loses its ground typing when it evolves. But then again, this isn't the first time a Pokemon completely changes its typing. It's definitely not a clone of Chandelure though, because its stats do not change at all between its Cantonian form. It still has a focus on defense with decent attack and special defense, and you can still give it the Thick Club to make it more powerful, and it maintains a lot of the same abilities. You got Lightning Rod to maintain your electric immunity, and Rock Head, which actually becomes a bit more useful now. Thankfully, its natural move pool is spiced up quite a bit, considering it has its signature move Shadow Bone, which is basically a Ghost-type crunch, and Flare Blitz is a hard-hitting Fire-type stat, which actually works well with Rock Head since you don't take recoil damage. Or you can use it for Flame Charge if you'd rather boost its speed. And strangely enough, it actually maintains the ground type moves it learned before, such as Earthquake through TMs, as well as Boomerang if you want a multi-hitting move that isn't nerfed by grassy terrain. It doesn't have too much type coverage other than that. You can teach her some Dark type moves, Brick Break, and some Rock type moves through TMs, and a few more types through the move tutor. But I gotta say, turning Marowak's Bone into a Torch Staff is pretty damn awesome.
But now here's the real important question. Does Alolan Marowak confirm the mythos of Cubone's mother being dead? Well, actually, not really, because Cubone's mother could still just be a Cubone, or even a Ditto. Or you can just evolve it outside of Alola and still get a ground-type Marowak. Ugh. Leave it to Game Freak to make their mythos even more confusing.
But we take it, and we are gonna decimate his life with Bear Blitz. Come on, yes. Now,
I gotta say, Generation 7 really did a lot to help out the bug typing. Not only did we get 2 solid bug water types, a pretty interesting bug fairy type, and 2 bug fighting Ultra Beasts that give Heracross a run for its money, we got an early bug Pokemon that doesn't suck.
Both Grubbin and Charjabug were very useful Pokemon who accompanied me through my journeys in Alola. They had solid stats and even more solid attacks, so I couldn't wait to finally get my hands on Vikavolt. Unfortunately, there are 2 obstacles that keep Vikavolt this low on the countdown. The first being that it takes so long to finally get one. You only get Vikavolt when you evolve Charjabug in Vast Pony Canyon, which you only reach by the near end of the game, and considering that you face Totem Vikavolt about 4 or 5 chapters earlier into the story, it just feels like it takes too long. And yes, I did miss the memo that Blush Mountain was also electromagnetic area in the Ultra games. And the second being that Charjabug and Grubbin mainly use physical attacks, but upon evolving it gets very mediocre physical attack and a ton more special attack. So aside from getting Thunderbolt upon evolving, the rest of your move pool is kinda useless and you need to go to a move reminder in order to get the best moves. But once you do get those moves, it's pretty damn sweet. And since it has Levitate, you don't even have to worry about ground attacks. Having a deadly powerful special attack stat combined with Thunderbolt and Bug Buzz for standard stabs, I'd say that's pretty satisfying. You can also get some pretty good type coverage if you get Flash Cannon and Energy Ball as a way of covering rock types, Air Slash for some flinch hacks, Charge to build up its electrical power, and even Roost for some sustain. Sure, it may be slow, but that's what agility is for. I still would have preferred it if they stuck with the physical type moves, especially considering the boost Leech Life got this generation.
Power 80!
And since it's a special attacker, I feel like it has to compete with Galvantula. But considering it has a special attack stat that's the same as Chandelure's, maybe I shouldn't have to worry about that.
This is a big hit here. This is coming off an insane special attack stat. Almola's special defense is pretty weak. I don't even think with the berry he lives. He's gone. Vikavolt kills Alomola.
If you were to ask me who my favorite legendary Pokemon is, I'd probably say Arceus. Yeah, it seems pretty petty to put the god of Pokemon as my favorite legendary, especially when it has the most balanced base stat total of all, and can become every single type in the game thanks to its ability multi-type. Unfortunately, though, I was never able to get that Azure Flute in Pokemon Platinum, so I never actually got the opportunity to train an Arceus. But I don't really have to.
The first time I saw Type Null, I was less than interested. I mean, it's a fairly ugly looking normal type Pokemon with nothing really interesting going for it. However, when I learned that its evolution Silvally operates very similarly to Arceus, I 180'd and immediately wanted to get my hands on this Pokemon. Type Null also has some pretty interesting lore in the Pokemon games. Apparently, it was created by the Aether Foundation as a weapon to combat Ultra Beasts. But when they tried to install the RKS system, they went berserk and had to be cryogenically frozen. One of them was freed by Gladion, who used it as the anchor Pokemon for his team. And with enough friendship and bonding, it evolved into Silvally and became the weapon it was intended to be. As expected, it has an evenly distributed base stat total at 570, making it more than 3/4 of an Arceus. It also changes its typing based on the item. In this case, it's Drive Memories, all of which you get as soon as you obtain Type Null, which is way more convenient than searching the landscape for plates to change Arceus' type. And as expected, it has an attack that matches the typing you give it, that being multi-attack. Unlike Judgment, which is a special attack with 100 base power that you get at level 100, Multi-Attack is a 90 base power move, it's physical, and you get it as soon as Type Null evolves. Silvally's type coverage runs the gamut with plenty of physical attacks at your disposal of many different types. It also has some decent special attacks as well, but considering that it has a much more plentiful move pool of physical attacks, you might just want to go with that. However, it isn't necessarily as complete as Arceus. It doesn't have really any ways of building up its defenses or recovering HP, whereas Arceus has Cosmic Power and Recover. Also, the only support move I usually see on a Silvally is Parting Shot, which lowers the opponent's attack and special attack, then swaps out Silvally for a different Pokemon. And even with the inclusion of move tutors, it's still missing 3 attack types: Fighting, Fairy, and Ground. Regardless, I still have plenty of respect for this Pokemon just because it makes the Arceus formula more accessible. It does the Aether Foundation proud.
With max HP, but this one's max special attack, max speed. So he brings in Mesprit, and I just drop a Draco. Shout out to PokeMMD with that drop a Draco. Hey, drop a Draco on that.
Man, the Alola variants must really like the dark typing, from Sassy Meowth to Nocturnal Rattata, and by far the best of the bunch, Green Grimer. And then it evolves into Alolan Muck, who's multicolored and has crystals all over its body, which are pretty dangerous. However, this Muck has a lot more charm compared to its Cantonian counterpart, considering it actually contributes to the health of the Alolan Islands. It and its pre-evolution were brought in to solve the garbage problem, so they consume trash and contain the toxins within their body, which I guess gives them the dark typing, while still maintaining the high HP, attack, and special defense that regular Cantonian Mucks have. This is such a great typing too, considering it's only weak to ground types, and the ground type isn't actually that common in the Alola region. And even so, it could probably still take a hit or two. Poison Touch moves up to be a regular ability it has. It can also have Gluttony, which allows it to eat berries earlier, maintaining its bulk a bit easier, and Power of Alchemy, allowing you to pull off some sick tricks during double battles. The special ground attacks it previously learned have now been exchanged for physical dark type attacks. You got Payback to take advantage of its slow speed, Knock Off for taking off items, Crunch, which is always a plus in my book, Gunk Shot for some power, and Poison Jab. You can even build its defenses up with Acid Armor, Curse, or Stockpile. And its type coverage isn't the best, but it's definitely a step up from its Cantonian form. You got Brick Break to take down screens, Shadow Sneak through Breeding to give you priority, and some elemental punches through the move tutor, including Ice Punch, which allows it to finally take on ground types. Just don't teach it Minimize. Please, just don't. It's not cool.
Another Minimize. Are we serious? Are you really? I can't believe this. I cannot believe that this is what's happening right now on the first day of Battlespot Hotshot. I am getting more triggered than an eject button.
For those of you who've watched my vines, or probably heard some background noise in some of my videos, you can probably tell that I have a dog. And her name is Toby. Nice little Shih Tzu Bichon. Because of this, I've gotten a lot more fond of dog Pokemon even. That's why Arcanine has made a solid spot on my favorite fire types Pokemon, and why Stoutland is one of my favorite normal type Pokemon. So when I heard that there was going to be a Generation 7 dog Pokemon, I immediately wanted one.
And since I got Pokemon Sun, my Rockruff evolved into midday form Lycanroc. Thankfully I have more reasoning as to why this form is my favorite other than I was forced to have it. I mean, you look between midday and midnight, and what you get is a choice between a slightly defensive physical attacker and a physical sweeper. A rock-type sweeper. Now that's something you don't see every day. Granted, Dusk form does have similar stats to Midday form, but Dusk Lycanroc has Tough Claws, meaning it's more focused on offense, whereas Midday is clearly more focused on speed, with its ability Sand Rush, which makes it faster than Excadrill in a sandstorm, let me note, and Steadfast, which can make Fake Outers regret their decision. It also has its signature rock priority move, Accelerock, as well as Rock Slide and Stone Edge for more powerful rock type attacks. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that much type coverage, other than Crunch, Brick Break, and a few other normal attacks. You can also breed it to get Thunder Fang or Fire Fang, and unfortunately it did get the short end of the stick when it comes to move tutors.
Bye, Felicia!
You can still get utility out of this mon with Stealth Rocks and Taunt, as well as Setup with Swords Dancer Rock Polish. With its great attack and speed and useful move pool, this lone wolf will send a competition packing.
Now that I think about it. But basically what I'm trying to say is, a +2 Continental Crush actually blew this Garchomp away, man. Damn!
I must say I am proud of the fighting types that we got this generation. And by far this one is my favorite of the bunch. Here we have our first non-legendary and non-mega normal fighting type. As you can expect, it combines the cutesy and playful aesthetic of a normal type with the raw physical power of a fighting type. And oh my god, does it nail on the former! Beware is such a cute and adorable creature, and its pre-evolution Stuffle is just a precious teddy bear that makes my heart melt whenever it cries. Everything about Beware is just so cute, from its rounded features to its cry to its mannerisms in battle, especially when it covers its face whenever it takes a hit. Everything about Beware just makes me want to give it a really big hug. Wait, that's not a good idea because apparently it's the most dangerous creature in Alola that can kill its trainers with its hugs?
What?
Well, could I at least give it a hug from behind? Don't ask me why the cuddliest of the fighting types is also one of the most dangerous. The fact stands though it has a 125 attack stat. It also has 120 HP, giving it some bulk, even though its special defense is nothing to write home about. And its abilities actually kinda suck. Klutz? Really? Even its best ability, Fluffy, which halves the damage of contacting moves, makes it weak to fire type attacks. And considering it has 4 weaknesses already, it's not really a risk you want to take. However, it does make up for it in its powerful stab attacks. These include Hammer Arm, Super Power, Thrash, and Double Edge, as well as some pretty respectable type coverage when you consider TMs and move tutors. Bulk Up just seems to be made for Beware as well. You could make the argument that Passimian is the better Pokemon since it has a better stat distribution and a more diverse attack move pool. But the unassummingness of Beware just gives it a lot of charm and personality, and that makes it really stand out. It just wants to be loved back, even if that love causes it to accidentally kill its trainer.
And I'm thinking, well, I can live this, right? I went for Protect. It's only gonna do 25% of what it originally would have done. No, I just die. Like, my Sharpedo protected him.
Despite all the sci-fi tropes that are found in the Gen 7 games, there's also a bit of religion mixed into the games as well. I mean, the Island Challenge itself is like a path of self-righteousness for new Pokemon trainers. Each of the Island Trials is hosted by a trial captain who's chosen by the spiritual leader of the island, which is the Kahuna. and the kahuna is chosen by the very guardian deity that monitors the island, the tapu. Each of the tapu are worshipped by the people of their respective island, and each of them even have a very different playstyle from each other, based on their stat distributions. I was pretty tempted to go with Tapu Koko since I am Junior Chicken after all, and it is pretty awesome to see him save your life before you even get your starter Pokemon in Pokemon Sun. But in the end, I decided to go with my zodiac sign instead.
No bull here. I think Tapu Bulu is a fine guardian deity, and it all comes down to how each Tapu seems to fulfill a role in competitive battling. Tapu Koko is the sweeper, but is electric type, and plenty of electric types are built to be sweepers. Tapu Fini is the tank, but is water type, and water types aren't really strangers to being defensively focused. And Tapu Lele is basically a faster and more powerful version of Gardevoir, whereas Tapu Bulu ain't no Whimsicott clone. Whimsicott has more of a focus on speed and afflicting statuses, whereas Tapu Bulu is a physically defensive roadblock. What can I say? I'm a big fan of physically focused grass types. Once Tapu hits the field, its ability Grassy Surge creates grassy terrain, which isn't the best terrain, but is definitely the one that does the most. It heals grounded Pokemon, powers up grass attacks, and halves the damage of Bulldoze, Magnitude, and Earthquake. So you can send your ground type weaknesses out and they'd be perfectly fine. And Tapu Bulu hits hard when it wants to. It has Wood Hammer, which when banded can knock out defensive and even resisting Pokemon, as well as Horn Leech, giving it a form of sustain while delivering powerful blows. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any fairy type physical attacks. Sure, it has Nature's Madness, but that cuts a Pokemon's HP in half, which is fairly situational. With that being said, it has plenty of type coverage, and probably the best out of the Tapus with Zen Headbutt to cover its deadly weakness of Poison, Brick Break, Rock TMs, Mega Horn, and Super Power. It can also learn Bulk Up and Swords Dance to power up, and Dual Screens if that's your thing. Sure, Tapu Bulu may not seem as impressive as the other Tapus, but when it takes a hit from a +4 Mega Gyarados and returns with a killing blow, you'll be praising it with all your love too.
Oscar, I love you. I love you so much right now, Oscar. Okay, well, we're back in this.
Oh yes, you knew how hyped I was when I saw Alolan Raichu. And even now, it's hard to even point out why I love this Pokemon so much. But I think I might have a good starting point. You know how Pikachu has this whole cool yet cute aesthetic that makes it appeal to both genders? Well, I think Alolan Raichu has it beat now. I mean, it's got those nice curved ears, which makes it really cute, as well as those pearly eyes, which make it even more cute, and it surfs on its tail, which makes it really cool. And it's got an electric psychic typing, which is so unique, seeing that both of those types are very proficient in special attacks. And thankfully, Alolan Raichu's stats have been tweaked a little bit. A bit of attack and defense went to a special attack and special defense. It also has a speed stat of 110, which becomes even faster with Surge Surfer. It's the only ability that works off of terrain and boosts Alolan Raichu's speed in electric terrain, making it the perfect partner in double battles for Tapu Koko, or a perfect counter to Tapu Koko. One electric ball coming off of this Pokemon can easily be deadly. Raichu learns plenty of electric type special attacks, whether on its own, through TMs, or inheriting it from Pikachu. It also learns Psychic as soon as you evolve it, as well as Psyshock, both Reflect and Light Screen, and Calm Mind to build up its special bulk and power. Or you could use Charge instead, whatever works for you. You could bring some utility in with Fake Out and Thunder Wave, or weakness coverage with Focus Blast and Grass Knot, as well as Signal Beam through the Move Tutor. If you see this thing set up nasty plots in electric terrain, you know you're really in trouble. Unless you have a focus sash or a priority move, in which case you're actually going to be just fine. And in that lies Alolan Raichu's greatest weakness. It is made of paper. Its physical defense and HP are crap. Any physical attack could easily demolish Alolan Raichu's health bar, let alone knock it out. Still, I love this Pokemon to death, and it's definitely worth getting a Thunderstone for. Surf's up, dudes.
Okay, never mind. It's Stoke Spark Surfer coming out, and you know, look at that. Look at me surfing on that. I'm just pointing at it, you know, and we just go in. That Tapu Fini just been destroyed like 10 times.
Do you think I even had a choice here?
Out of all the creatures Alola has to offer, none of them fascinate me quite like the Robin Hood of the Pokemon series. Besides having by far the most adorable baby form out of all the starters, it evolves into a mysterious, sharp-shooting owl that exchanges its flying type for Ghost, which ultimately I feel is a better move. No longer do you have a 4x weakness to Ice, and instead of having weakness to Poison and Bug, you have weakness to Ghost and Dark. Sure, there's also Delmise, who has Steel-type Stab technically thanks to its ability, has better physical attack and defense, and a bit more of a diverse move pool, but I just can't get hooked on it. By far, Decidueye is the more interesting Pokemon. Stat-wise, Decidueye has a pretty solid attack stat as well as some solid special defense and special attack for some reason. I honestly don't know why. Its special attack move pool is pretty shallow. You're much better off going with physical attacks. Its signature move Spirit Shackle delivers pretty solid ghost type damage and traps the target Pokemon. They can't switch out, which is very useful in competitive battling. It also learns a few more Ghost Stabs, including Phantom Force to break through Protects and Detects, and Shadow Sneak for priority. It also learns Leaf Blade for Grass Stab, and since it is a bird, it can learn Brave Bird. It also has U-Turn for Switch Initiative, and Sucker Punch for a more powerful priority. And if you want, you can teach it Low Sweep to lower the opponent's speed. It also has 2 forms of Sustain through Synthesis and Roost. You can build up its power with Swords Dance, speed up your team with Tailwind, and get rid of entry hazards with Defog. And yes, I'm still waiting on its hidden ability to be released, because Long Reach is actually pretty useful since it stops contacting moves from contacting, which can be really helpful for getting around certain abilities, items, and protection moves. But now here's the big question. How is it compared to Chestnut? Well, I'd say that Chestnut is still my favorite, mainly because it doesn't waste so many of its stat points in the special attack department, focuses a lot more on the physical side, has a hidden ability that I think is much more helpful, and has a much bigger and diverse move pool of physical attacks. With that being said, Decidueye is my main in Pokken Tournament DX, so I still have a lot of love for this Pokemon. In fact, I'd say it's knocked down Trevenant to number 4 in my favorite grass types countdown. I'm definitely glad I have this guy as my starter. Whether it's locking opponents in with a Spirit Shackle or bombarding them with a sinister Arrow Raid. This majestic archer knows how to take aim and hit the bullseye.
And I can easily go for that secure KO and guaranteeing Toxapex out of the way, and that's nice. That's really cool.
Woo! Finally got this video done. Now I can move on to playing Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. In the meantime, you can check out some of my other Pokemon countdowns, or check out my bro Snooplax's latest video on N64 ROM hacks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.